We're back again. 40K Fanatics podcast is part two, a two-parter. We've got the homie Austin, and he has got a rebuttal from last week's pod. Should the Primarchs be in 40K? Should named characters be in 40K? We're going to find out his thoughts. But first, as always, we got to catch up with the homie Austin. He's been keeping up with the thumbnails and the whatnots on the YouTube. Go to YouTube at 40K Fanatics and leave a comment. In fact, I said that I wanted to read a comment that a guy made on our last pod, and I'm going to see. Comment. That was a really good comment. It was a very good comment. Let's see if I can put my computer on Do Not Disturb without breaking the recording. So far, so good. You know what most people do? What I think a lesser person would do would be to cut right now, look up the thing I'm looking for, and then come back with the information. That's not what we do here. Nay.
Did you find it?
Yes, I have found it. All right. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, that's
Stand by.
Stand by. I think I got it. Here we go. It is lengthy. Oh no, I've messed up. Austin, I've messed up.
Standing by and standing on.
Oh man, I'm fired.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say that the sun is currently setting, and I think I might need sunglasses.
This comes from Paradukes.
Good old Paradukes.
He says, and I'm just going to read the entire thing. It's two chunky paragraphs, but we'll see how it goes. He's talking about Primarchs. I'll let him tell it. I like Primarch level threats being on tabletop in theory, but in practice, there's a major problem with them. When they become meta, it makes it really frustrating to try and play anything else. This extends to all named characters. I have a custom chapter of Marines who are basically doing their best in the middle of nowhere. So why would it make any sense for Marnius Calgar or Tigerius to be chilling with them? Why are they clashing with Angron? How come Magnus himself considers them to be a worthy enough threat to keep attacking them? How in the hell did the chapter master manage to smash Bellacor's teeth in with a thunderhammer, something that actually happened in game? You can argue your way around this by saying they aren't the named characters. One of my captains might just bear a striking resemblance to Uriel Ventress in a legally distinct way, but honestly, that's third captain Malcon Strom. Those demons I'm up against might not actually be Primarchs, but just really nasty greater demons that have a vendetta against the chapter. That only goes so far, though. On the idea of the redacted Primarchs being female, I'm not... Well, then he goes on about that. I like what he's saying. It's a rebuttal to my point that my Abaddon is not your Abaddon, is not... And for those of you that haven't caught up with all of the various qualifiers and whatnot, I know Abaddon's not a Primarch, but he's what we're talking about. Anyway, my Gilliman is not your Gilliman, that there's this multiverse sort of thing going on. But he makes a good point of they are really good, and it creates a situation where everybody uses them.
Yeah.
And so if you're not that into using them, then what do you do? And I've got some answers for that, but we'll get into some of that when we get to our main topic. The first thing we have to do is open up that bits box and talk about what we've done in the hobby this week. Austin did a sound effect. I'm proud of him. Austin, what have you done in the hobby this week?
Well, today is actually the first time I've actually done much hobbying in a while. Because of work, I haven't had much time to dedicate to the hobby. But due to the good weather today, I did a little bit of priming. Last night...
Hold on. Stop it. I have an interrogation to make about this priming, and I want the people in the comments to tell me what is going on. Everybody seems to have all this problem with priming. You're waiting on perfect weather, and it was perfect today. 75 and sunny. No humidity. I primed a mini the other day. No, I primed 5 minis on a yardstick with a rattle can outside in the dark the other day under my porch light. And it went on super smooth. Some 70% humidity. It might have been drizzling. How are you having problem with this primer?
I have models.
Explain yourself.
I have models I can show you where I haven't had good conditions with priming, and it's messed them up. If you have too high of humidity and temperature, you can end up having almost like a sandpaper effect on models. I've seen that happen.
I've seen it happen to people. I just don't understand why it hasn't happened to me. Could it be that your primer is old? Is that a thing? Like if we're talking about rattle can primers? Because I tend to run through one pretty fast.
Yeah.
When I go get a rattle can of primer, I end up using it on terrain or something, and then there's only 3 or 4 minis left in it by the time I actually get to it.
I don't know if it's that. One thing is the paint drying before it actually reaches the miniature as it's going through the air. If it dries and then hits the miniature, it can start to build up like the sandpaper effect.
And that happens in high humidity, not low?
I think it's a temperature thing.
Okay.
For the most part. High temperature and humidity might have to do with drying time. And so like there's a lot of factors that go into it. The back of the at least Citadel cans will show you like try to prime at this temperature and humidity this far away. You need to have all your factors together for a miniature to turn out right.
I witnessed, I saw this with my own eyes. I saw the homie take a ruler full of minis out her back door. It was pouring rain. She had it was the middle of the night, pouring rain. She's got 2.5 feet or so of awning. She steps out the back door with the door open, hits them both sides, steps in. This is with a rattle can of cast black. Steps in, looks at him in the light, hits him again to finish it off. Perfect. I seen it. Now, I do have one little priming problem myself, and this will get to something I've done in the hobby this week, which is Ninjon on YouTube, who I recommend highly for painting and kit bashing, modeling, and really high level painting stuff. He won a Golden Demon recently, and he swears up and down that any of your airbrush problems stem from running primer through said airbrush. So I'll take his word for it, because my airbrush works really good for about, I don't know, a couple few sessions, and I'm cleaning it out pretty good, but it just gets gummy, like deep inside its guts gummy. And then I'll clean it out and it'll run paint. It seems to run paint much longer for better than it does primer for any amount of time. So I went to the Harbor Freight, bought me a $25 airbrush. It is a piece of crap. However, it blows and it sprays, and it's now the primer airbrush. And so far, I've got no problems at all. All I'm running is primer through it. My plan is, if/when it gets inevitably gunked up, then I'm just going to buy another. I'm going to throw it away and buy another, because it looks like a torture to clean.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know how good airbrush, your paint cup and the socket that it goes in, the hole is kind of the same size. Well, this has got in the top of the body a normal size hole, but then the paint cup threads onto it, and it's like an entire bolt. And so it's just got like a pencil lead wide channel for the paint to go through. So as I was abusing this thing last night, I had primed something black with Army Painter Air black primer. That ran fine. Then I thought, I kind of want to do this in a metallic silver, so I'm just going to dump some metallic silver, not the air, into it and see if it sprays. And it did. But it would spray for a second, and then you'd have to wait for some paint to gloop down the tiny hole and spray again. And we'll see if it functions after that.
Sounds like an interesting experiment.
I might have cost myself $25 last night.
Sounds like it.
But I didn't want to brush on a whole bunch of silver. I'm very lazy. And, I got $25 for an airbrush. Mm-hmm. I will say, I predict that it does better than my other one, especially if this whole primer theory has any wheels to it. But the issue tends to be that when my good airbrush gets gunky, it sort of circles the drain as I'm trying to do sort of detail work, when I'm really trying to spray just a little bit of paint with quite a bit of air, you get your dry tipping, then you get your backflowing and stuff like that can happen. It doesn't do much of that if there's not been any primer through it recently. This primer airbrush, I'm running it wide open. Also, it's a $25 airbrush. Wide open seems to be the only speed it's got. You've got the air fully on, and then when you go to pull back the thing, you've got no paint, blah. And then if you go further than that, you've got extra blah. It has no, man, it would be a hackneyed looking t-shirt if you wanted to use this for any sort of drawing.
How about?
Anyway, that's my airbrush. Rebuttal to your rebuttal. What else have you done in the hobby this week? I think you painted some dwarves, didn't you?
Not yet.
Not yet. You've got so many dwarves. How are we going to play Old World if you don't paint your dwarves?
Well, I'm going to get moved to a new schedule, and then I'm going to have time to chew through everything.
I like it. I finished up my Knight of Shroud on Ethereal Steed, and he should be there on the Whip Wednesday that Casey will post. Casey will be back next week, by the way. I imagine Casey will post that today as we record. And I also started on Hammerstein, the ABC Warrior from the Judge Dredd, 2000 AD universe. And I'm trying to make him look just like the 90s Stallone movie because it is the best. Anyhow, that's my bits box. We just played a game. Before we turned on the mics, we played a game, and I want to get your thoughts. I talked about it last week. We talked about it on the pod a couple weeks ago in, sort of the different aspects of game design. We played Don't Look Back. It was your first experience with it. What did you think?
I was telling you about this while we were playing, but I feel like it feels like kind of the idea we were going towards with our game. But if you had months to 2 years to refine that idea and kind of work all the kinks out.
I don't think that I know for sure. I never would have arrived at the cooperative. So for those that don't know, Don't Look Back is an 80s slasher game, tabletop miniatures game by Blacksite Studios. I highly recommend it. Me and the wife have played it many times, just the two of us. You play 4 characters. You don't necessarily even everybody play your character. You can. That's sort of the way we did it today with 3 people. But it's a cooperative experience against essentially a monster AI.
Yeah.
Now, the monster AI sounds bad until you get real abstract with the way the monster works, which is what it does, in that the monster can be here and there and everywhere at any moment. So he can be over here beating up on somebody, and then the next minute pop up on the other side of the map. And that sounds real cheap and cheesy until you see it work, and then you get this ever existing, feeling of dread that the monster could be around any corner, which is exactly how it is in the 80s slasher movies.
Oh yeah, it felt like different scenes acting out in a movie. Like you'd have it pop out and attack some people, and then I'd have my guy in the wheelchair try to go inside a building, and there it is in the next scene attacking him. Yeah,
I said it's like one of those cheesy slasher kill montages sometimes when he's, the guy's hiding under the truck and he pulls him by his ankles, and then the girl's hiding in the closet and he hacks through the thing, and it's just cut, and they're all dead.
Yeah, looking at it more of like you're directing a movie compared to like playing like here's second by second of the action.
Yeah, and I know that I never would have thought of that. Like making it cooperative and making an AI system for the monster, we could have got there.
I feel like this game and our game, there's some kind of evolutionary ancestor there in which we branched off. But I feel like it was going in a similar direction at one point.
Yeah, and I don't, now that I've seen it, it makes all the sense in the world, because there's these fright tokens that move around and they scare your guys. You sort of have 2 health bars. You got a terror meter and a wound meter, and there are all these levers that are pulling both of those bars all the time. and then there's the killer popping up from various spots, like the fright tokens he can come from, terrain he can come from, the absence of eyes on him can reposition him.
Mm-hmm.
And that abstract movement of the killer is what I don't think I ever would have come to. Having seen it, it's a thing of beauty. And
it sure is.
Yeah, we've already started buying expansions. Me and the homie Valerie cannot help ourselves to just get way too much of any game we're into.
I'm
looking at you, Shatterpoint.
I'm excited for you guys to get the Gray Alien expansion.
Yeah, you're into Gray Aliens. There's
Fire in the Sky.
Yeah, there's one that I like a lot. Is out of stock on their website right now, but it's some sort of vampire thing. And I'm like, I gotta have that. That sounds too good. Also, Blacksite Studios started doing terrain, like MDF terrain.
Oh yeah.
And then got into games and miniatures. And in their STL files, which I don't have a printer, but I know some people that have access to them. Man, they got the Scooby-Doo gang. And they got Mulder and Scully.
Oh wow.
And the book for Don't Look Back has got all sorts of rules on building your own characters. Like we could have Mulder and Scully out there with some red shirt FBI agents running around from those aliens. Because the truth is out there.
I've never seen X-Files.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
It was before my time.
Man, you got the internet. You've never seen X-Files.
No.
I am flabbergasted. Close the bits box.
Oh.
We got to get to our main topic. I can't believe this man who's seen the X-Files. How are you going to miss X-Files? It's unbelievable. Some fundamental spooky stuff in the zeitgeist of society came from the X-Files.
Just never seen it.
Shocking. All right, maybe we'll watch X-Files after we get done with this as we eat our dinner. But you've got things to say.
I do.
Tell me what you think about Primarchs and 40K or named characters in miniatures games at all.
Well, I want to preface that I'm not against Primarchs as an idea. I just don't find them very much fun to play against for the most part. Going back to what Paraduke said, for me, playing the tabletop game is sort of like creating our own narrative as we play. And when every week or so, it's like, oh, here's Magnus, oh, here's Mortarion, here's Girlaman, here's was the Lion. Just every list, every single time, for the most part, they're coming up. It's like, well, what makes them special at that point? If they're in every list and they're always getting played, they kind of lose their flavor a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, they're superheroes, and superheroes are neat. But the thing is that, and we talked about this in part 1, the power levels don't really add up.
No.
Like, they're superheroes in a land where there are regular dudes. And you are much more on the, like, you play Astra Militarum, and you play Old World.
Yeah.
Which sets you firmly in the seat of regular old dudes doing the best with whatever hellscape has set upon them.
I like my just regular old guys rolling around the mud dying.
Not for nothing, but you also are not the biggest 40K fan in the world. Your Games Workshop affiliation is much more Old World and fantasy. And I think that is an even more sort of grounded feeling. So I think that we may cover more ground if we take this more generally away from just 40K and Primarchs and into sort of named characters in anything. Do you agree?
I think so. I think some of my concerns with it cover that as well.
Yeah, because I want to get to the bottom of why you prefer your dudes to just be your dudes when you could have Superman on your team.
Well, Superman's all good and everything, but if I'm coming at this almost from a forging my own narrative perspective, Superman's not my guy. He's owned by someone else. If I'm here, it's almost like taking a role playing perspective with things. If I'm trying to make my army, and here's my commander, here's his backstory, here's his hopes and dreams and desires, here's his second lieutenant, here's everything going on. If I'm trying to like create my guys, and then I have like Superman over here, it kind of ruins the vibe I have going with everyone else.
So I've got a couple of notes that I saved that I did not do last time. And I've got two examples of cases where I think the superheroes work and make a lot of sense, and some where they don't. And I wonder where the Primarchs actually fit into this sort of spectrum, let's call it. There's a Batman miniatures game, and it's a skirmish game. And I know that if I don't play it, but I've looked into it, I'm a little bit familiar with it. You have various affiliations, you have various gangs of guys, that sort of stuff.
I've also looked into it.
I love Batman. Batman is my favorite superhero.
I like Batman
by far.
too.
One of my favorite movies in history is Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. Yes, that one. Love it.
I was hoping we'd come to the same favorite movie, but we don't.
What's yours?
Batman Returns.
Oh, it's good. I do appreciate Batman being a little bit more serious than that. Which the Penguin in that a little too serious. I'm gonna eat all the babies. It's like, okay, easy, buddy. On Christmas, like that's a villain. Not wrong. Anyhow, the Batman miniatures game. If I were going to play it, I want to play Batman. I want to play Batman. I want to play Robin. Have to have them off the rip every time, no question. While I love and appreciate the rogues gallery of Batman baddies and even his, let's call them sort of associates, at Gotham PD and other spots, I'm not playing that game if I don't have Batman. And I know good and darn well that a whole lot of people are going to be like me, and they too will want to play Batman. And I don't believe, and I could be wrong, somebody get in the comments if you played the Batman miniatures game, let me know. I don't think there's anything stopping you from having Batman versus Batman, and that sucks. That sucks more than Marvel Crisis Protocol, where Iron Man may fight Iron Man at any given time. At least you could in your head say, well, that one's just one of the suits gone rogue or something. But if the guy's name is on the game and he's in the game, I feel like you can't be having more than one of those.
I guess so. I think with games like that, if you're going in and everyone's kind of like, everyone is a named character in those games, there's no way to kind of get around that issue. It's just part of the game. Yeah,
but I mean, Officer Montoya, like I can live with there being two Montoyas. Gotham PD probably has two Montoyas. She's probably got a sister or a brother. But it's the Batman game. And then you have Batman in the game. That'd be like 40K being, name a Primarch, the war game.
The Horus Heresy.
Literally. It would be the Horus Heresy. There's Horus. He's really good.
Here's Horus. Here's his heresy.
Yeah, everybody loves him. There he is. Who's he fighting today? I've rocked up to the game store to play some random person. And it's like, oh, you're Horus too. That's not great. I'm with you on that. But as we discuss this, do you have more on that? More on that side of the spectrum?
I wasn't quite sure where you were going with all the Batman games. Besides me agreeing that like in those kinds of games, named characters make sense because it's named characters of the game.
Well, they make sense, but the sort of like one guy doesn't, in my opinion. Here's the other side that I think this is the other side of named character good bad spectrum. In Star Wars games, such as
Legion.
I want to call it Battlefront. You know why?
Yeah,
because that's what it is. Star Wars Legion, Star Wars Shatterpoint, a little less. Okay, Shatterpoint, very much like the Batman game, where you can have Darth Vader versus Darth Vader, but again, it's not Darth Vader the game, is it?
No.
So it's not quite as bad. Star Wars Legion, where you can, because this is the other side of the spectrum, where you can just have a bunch of nameless dudes. In my opinion, you can never have enough Jedi. Just adding Jedi to that thing is always more fun. How many Jedi can I get? Where are the most Jedi? Oh, I can just go play Shatterpoint and then it's all Jedi? Give me that, please, and thank you. So I think those are the brackets. And then, of course, you've got your others. I guess some of my framing here of this discussion now is the Primarchs in 40K are held in such high regard. They're gods among the gods, because to the lowly guardsmen, any old Space Marine George that they only let polish boots, is the man. And he practically is. And then the Primarchs are just a whole order of magnitude more important, more powerful, more meaningful to the entirety of the endless war. And then you've got named characters in, say, Old World. And how do they work?
You just, like you would in 40K, you just bring them in. I think what it comes down to is a fundamental difference in intentions to play the game is what it comes down to. Because I play the game hoping to kind of play out narratives and have my guys in the world rolling around in the mud doing things, whereas other people, like you were saying, want either superhero battle, here's my big guy versus your big guy, or insert Primarch here is meta of the month. I have to take him every single list. I think that's the diverging points of interest, and it's hard to build a bridge between those.
What do we think about like the Crusade rules and stuff where you get to name everybody?
I think that's good.
I think that is really interesting because I love me some Crusade. My Night Lord painted Chaos Lord is always going to be Lord Stanley to me, because that's what he was in the Pry Nexus Crusade, which I need to update all that paperwork to get it up to current points and whatnot, and add in the rules that I got with my codex. That I think is a little bit of scratching the itch that you're trying to scratch, where it's like, these are my dudes. That's Lord Stanley. However, I also had Abaddon in the army. And so Lord Stanley, my Lord Stanley, who doesn't exist anywhere else but in my house, goes and interacts with the celebrity, we'll call him. It's like he got a like on Twitter or something. He got to hang out with Abaddon for a day.
He looked at me.
He looked at me. He fought
you haven't
right
seen Fury
next
Road, sorry.
I haven't seen Fury Road. If you haven't seen the X-Files, I can't even handle it. Yeah, Crusade's underrated. I think that I was thinking about this too. Whether you prefer or not Primarchs in your game, they are I think on balance they are represented well.
They're just kind of like squished down to meet everything else.
Yeah, because all of it is like,
yeah, it's all compressed.
It's all compressed, and it's compressed because it's a D6 dice system. Okay,
you have to have a way for a Space Marine to interact with anything in this universe.
That's right. The Space Marine is sort of like the center.
Yeah.
You know, movement 6, toughness 4, strength 4 for base weapons. It's literally the middle of the band, and then everything below and above needs to have some sort of reasonable interaction with him. A grot needs to be able to roll a 5, then a 6 to shoot that dude in the kneecap, because that could happen every so often. It happens way too frequently, but that's the best we could do. Even if it was he hits on 6s and then he's got a wound on 6. It's like, well, that's highly unlikely, but not impossible, and way more likely than it would be in the books.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know under what circumstance all these little I mean, I don't want to pick on the grots and the goblins and stuff, but I don't know how they would ever take down a Space Marine without some silliness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, naked grot in the forest, I'm saying. And then the Primarchs have to be able to thump anything within, I mean, I say within reason. There's no reason. There's no reason.
No.
I did bring Abaddon to a game the other day. I played a lovely guy. Shout out to the homie Dustin, new homie. He's 6 months into the game. He's got some lovely painted Death Guard, and we had the best game ever. I brought Abaddon, the Despoiler, and I deep struck him in, and I told him, I was like, well, he's going to destroy that tank. And he's like, I mean, maybe. I said, no. And so Abaddon run in and goes, thump, and the tank was gone. The next turn, he walked over to the next one and went, thump, and that was gone, and it was all she wrote for the old Death Guard. But also, that's about what it ought to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we're arriving at is we need to be having a bit more conversation in our game bookings.
Yeah.
Talk me through how you like to book a old world game. Because it's
I feel like I can't even get one.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's true. Folks, in our local community, there is a
Mexican standoff.
A Mexican standoff on Old World where quite a few people have bought some stuff. Some have put it together and some have painted it. And they're all sitting around thinking, well, if people start playing, then I'll wrap up my stuff and play. And it's like, well, some of you jokers are going to have to get in the dirt and wrestle. Like, you're here, do it, just do it. But they're not doing it. We can't figure out why. That may be a topic for another pod.
Every week I'm asking, hey, who wants a game? Who wants a game? Who wants a game?
So, yeah, so I guess you're giving me nothing on an answer to that question. I like to play whatever I think is cool.
That's the way to
That's
do it.
my guiding principle of all of this stuff. If I'm feeling like Abaddon's cool today, I take Abaddon. If I feel like I want to have my Chaos Sorcerer in Terminator armor, who is pants, run the whole army, then I do that. That's never a good idea, by the way. It gets me an L every time I do it. But I like him. I painted him up. He looks good. He's cool. He does a thing. I want to see him do his thing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to ask people, I'm like, hey, I'm trying to play a silly list. Not a silly good list. Sometimes people misunderstand. Sometimes some people call a silly list a meme list. What they tend to mean, though, is the most broken thing in the world that may be like too overtuned to actually work in the context of a whole tournament.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like, man, I'm not trying to play that. I'm trying to bring Lord Stanley to run this whole thing, even though he is not capable. So that's a conversation I've been trying to have with people. It's like, listen, you've got cool stuff. You've got legend stuff. If you've wondered what all those other weapon options that you never use do, play me, because that's what I'm doing all the time. I don't even pay for Warhammer Plus. I can make one list in the app. You know how many lists I keep made? One list.
Same.
Every time I go to play, I make a new list.
Mm-hmm.
And I go and I look at my shelf of what is becoming a fairly complete collection of Chaos Space Marines. And just pick the stuff I feel like running. Mm-hmm. Stuff I hadn't looked at in a while. I've ran Cypher a few times recently. He's always cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes he'll just fall out of rotation. I'll come around again and pick up Cypher because I painted him. The painting, I think, is important here too. On this make it your own idea.
Yeah.
If they're all gray, yeah, you might as well just bring the Primarch because he's good.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think we need a conversation about that. And also, are we bringing superheroes? I think that's worth saying. Because the armies look way different. These dudes cost so many points. They are such a powerhouse of a small thing. I think if you brought, 40 regular old tactical squad Marines, you'd have a really hard time stopping a Primarch no matter what.
Yeah. That kind of goes into something that I wanted to say about a solution to named characters in Primarchs.
What's that?
Reintroducing formations, or I don't know if formations is the right thing, but army lists, to where that's what they do in Old World, not necessarily for named characters, but also kind of going into Lord of the Rings a little bit.
Yeah, do they call them formations in 9th edition, or were they regiments? I think they were regiments. Where you had to have so many units of different types. People called it a troops tax primarily, because that was the basic one. You had to have 3 units of troops.
I think they were detachments in 9th and 8th edition. But what I want to see is, if you have like a named chapter master, I want to see. I'm not really well versed on Marine chapter formation and everything, but I want to see, if you take him, you're forced to take so many of these units to represent like his inner circle and all the veterans and everything. That way, when you bring the named characters, it doesn't become, here's named character and mess of whatever's meta this month. It becomes a named character and things he would be associated with.
Yeah, I actually like that a lot, because they recently did this for Chaos Demons that attach to Chaos Space Marine armies. Because what people were doing was they were splashing a Great Unclean One into every single Chaos army.
Yeah.
And that's not really what it's about. No. So because that looks so silly to have a totally well-regimented group of Black Legion and then a Great Unclean One, a Nurgle, just hanging out. It's like, why is he here?
Yeah.
There's no...
Because he's good.
Yeah. Because there's no disease or pestilence represented in this army.
Because I used to play card games, and I'm trying to build a meta deck.
Yeah. I think we could talk about that for a minute, too, because we've got some time. But back to this, they recently made it where if you want to take a Greater Demon, then you also have to take their matching keyword battle line unit. So if you want to take Shalaxi Hellbane or the Keeper of Secrets, you have to take a unit of Demonettes, at least one. That. I do too, because it's Shalaxi Hellbane's not rocking up just her, him, it, they. That's not what's happening.
Yeah.
There's tons of little creepy crawlies pouring from everywhere, and then through the smoke and the warp tear will come your Greater Demon. Yep. And that is way more fun. I like what you're saying, too, that if you take Gilliman, you can't run Oops All Tanks.
Yeah.
Like, Gilliman is not showing up without some dudes.
Yeah.
This is his whole thing.
You want like his honor guard or whatever else he has.
Yeah, whatever they got, Yeah, the Lion shouldn't be able to show up unless you've got those I think they're called Inner Circle dudes or whatever they are.
Whatever they are.
Yeah, you guys know what we're talking about. We'll you know what? We'll put this stuff in the corrections notes, and then Casey could tell us what all these units are we were talking about. What was it that I was going to touch on? Oh, yeah. I think some of this stuff, the proliferation of Primarchs in 40K, the sort of superhero game that goes on, I think that is large. It's got more to do with meta chasing than it does anything else.
Yeah.
And like I said, the Primarchs are good. Almost every single one of them is a big threat in a small package. And so if you can afford to fit it in, you're going to take it because it's just good. And I think that this is a future pod. I think we need to discuss the card player to miniatures game pipeline, and also, with card player, you can say / video game player pipeline. I think that, look, 40K is bigger than it's ever been. It's going to be much larger soon. The Space Marine 2 game will absolutely bring people to this thing to figure out.
It already is.
It already is. To figure out what the heck is this. And that's good. And here's why it's great. Okay. We've had like 30 solid years of maturity in online gaming, right? Like 30 years where your internet was fast, where everybody had voice chat, where you have all kinds of options, right? The days that they're before your time, I remember them, where you would bring your whole computer to somebody's house and LAN party it up.
LAN party.
That stuff doesn't exist anymore.
Nope.
And hasn't for quite a while. And what I think is going on is people that have hit about 25 years old who have just sat there playing online are coming to these miniatures games because there's only so much Call of Duty you can play. There's only so much Madden you can play with strangers or even with your friends online who you talk to but never actually see. And there's like there's a freshness and an energizing quality to going out to the game store and setting down some things that you actually touch and move around and seeing your opponent across the way and talking nonsense with them. That part is beautiful, but a little bit of the mentality that is carried over from the video game and the card games too. The card games, I think, because you still have that interpersonal. With card games, it's just about the playing of the cards.
Just buy the cards and play them.
You buy the cards and you play them, and you play the game to win the game. Like, I understand how that's as far as is required to look. The collection of the cards is neat because you have these art pieces that you can look at. But ultimately, the ones that are not very good are just sitting in the binder for the sake of looking at them.
Yeah.
These miniatures games are different, though, folks.
You put heart and soul into building your miniatures, and you can kit bash your miniatures, make them your own. No one's going out there going, "Oh, here's my card I painted myself." No one's doing that.
Yeah, no.
If you are,
right.
I apologize, but
yeah, you're a weirdo, and I don't apologize. Yeah, the thing about it, you hear this a lot. And I think this is the gamer people more than even the card people. I think the card people kind of get a little bit more of the this is a tactile thing, and so I'll paint some stuff. I think the video game folks and look, I'm a video game guy. I've been playing the new Zelda, and by the way, it's great.
I didn't even know it was out.
It's out.
I didn't even know it was a game.
It's out and it's good. Anyhow, I don't have time for a Zelda Echoes of Wisdom review, but if you guys want it, I'll give it to you. Anyway, you see this a lot where they're like, "Oh, the 40K is so expensive. It's ridiculous. This highway robbery the rules should be free and yada da 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 da." And stop messing with the rules all the time because it makes it hard to keep up with. And, also, you need to make all these changes to fix the game. It's like, okay, look, man, we're not putting out weekly patches like Call of Duty and Fortnite.
Yeah.
That's not what this is. With regard to the cost, if you actually take any joy in the other 2/3 of this thing, which is building, painting, and then gaming, so the hobby side of this, by the time you build all your stuff, take literally however long you want to paint the stuff, you end up with these physical items that you can still look at. They don't go bad.
Yeah.
Your cost per hour, like your dollar per hour of entertainment, is beating the heck out of the movie theater. Because
shout out to Megalopolis.
Shout out to Megalopolis, and it's giving you your money's worth. What was that? 4 hours of nonsense.
2 hours of absolute kino.
Terrible. Well, that's been some thoughts of ours. Austin is anti-Primarch. He hates them all and doesn't want to see them anymore.
Okay.
Do you think they should have killed all the Primarchs in the Horus Heresy and then not had them for 40K?
I think they should have just left them for 40K to be like mythological characters that exist in the background lore, not actually like bring them out.
Do you think that would make... So then, you know what we get to there, though? Is my favorite Chaos character, Harkin World Claimer.
Yeah.
He's an epic hero. He's not that good. I mean, he's fine, right? As an in-game character. His lore is super cool. He's in the books, yada, yada. Then we get to where do you draw the line? Because if Abaddon's doesn't exist...
Oh, he would exist.
So Harkin would still be there.
Abaddon's not a Primarch because he's a central character. So
yeah, okay. I understand what you're saying there, but I'm saying look, if Abaddon's the only Primarch level threat, then it becomes, you want to talk about people playing what's meta. It would just be a bunch of that. But my question is, where does the line get drawn? So the line's too far, but whoever's under him is fine. Because I feel like all we do is move the line, and now it's like, well, but now we've got all these named characters, and then they're kind of good, and so
I almost feel like a resetting of the clock back to before Games Workshop started moving the clock to where we have a perpetually time-grounded setting in which nothing changes and war never changes and everything sucks. The end. Everyone dies.
Well, on that bombshell, possibly literally, we'll see you next time. Remember to
stay fanatical.